Hello everybody, I'm Nate and welcome to my channel. Today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at this new Chetki offering here from Mellow Blocks. This is the Balto Chetki. Let's get into it. If you are unfamiliar with what Chetkis are, well, this is it. So if you're familiar with what Bead are, there's some similarity. Except this is a Russian style, by the way, so it's going to be flat in here. So we have these flat paneled kind of beads that have two holes, so they're stringed up on both sides here, and then we have a larger kind of paddle at the end here. I'm going to go ahead and break down the design and the materials and all that before I play it. But let's talk about Mellow Blocks a little bit. This is straight from their website, so you could obviously go look for yourself. But if you are unfamiliar with this fairly new company, this is what they say kind of as their mission statement, if you will. They say this: a Mellow Block is any simple object that brings you satisfaction and inner peace. I really dig the name Mellow Block. I think it's a very fitting name for such a skill toy. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing other skill toys. Now they do have a worry stone as well. They did send me one. I didn't bring it out for this review because that's not what it's about, but I do encourage you to take a look at their website for a few other things that they offer as well. Now I will say these are currently out of stock. They've been very popular. A lot of my other fellow Bead and other skill toy aficionados have picked a lot of these up. I do assume there is going to be more in stock. I've realized that in the last few reviews that the products I've been reviewing have been out of stock, so please be patient. Those companies will be putting out more stuff, so including here with Mellow Blocks. Now these are 3D printed, so I definitely can assume that they're going to be putting out more. It comes in two different materials. This is the jet. It's a little deceptive. On camera, and even kind of in person, it looks mostly black until you start looking a little bit closer, which I'll try to get some camera work on that. As you get closer, you can see some green specks in it. And I really like that look, and it kind of gives a nice little nuance. These are finely polished. Like I said, they are 3D printed. And honestly, I wouldn't be able to really tell that they're 3D printed because they are very well polished. So I will say, as far as quality control, they've done a really good job with these. I've dropped them a few times. I've not dropped them on concrete, but I would assume they would take a little bit of a beating if I dropped them directly on concrete. But I've dropped them on my wood floor, and I can't really, I mean, there's a tiny little like pinhole marks, but these are going to take some abuse. I wouldn't recommend, maybe unless you really don't care, I wouldn't recommend necessarily, dropping them intentionally on sidewalk, but they are going to take some beating. Like I said, this is the jet. So these are a polish finish. So, bear in mind that it's a summer day and, fingers get tacky. I wouldn't maybe gravitate towards this if I was going to be, outside for long. They do have a raw or powder finish as well. That probably, I don't have that one, but I would assume that one's going to probably deal a little bit better. That is a different material as far as the printing is concerned as well. And I think they said something on their site, if you had like a corn allergy, that the powder one is not the one they'd recommend because it uses corn. I don't know much about 3D printing materials, so I'm not an expert on that, but I think it's cool that they offer two different finishes. So it's probably just kind of what you prefer. I went with this one. I like the look of it. I like the colorway of it. The paracord that is used on here is a 95 paracord from Paracord Planet. So quality paracord as well. It was strung up with the black that it came with, and I wanted the purple, and so they also included a spare piece. This Chetki offering is a little chunkier, right? And I kind of like that. But let's talk about the biggest feature here, and I'm going to have to kind of zoom in a little bit here to add some weight as well as actual like functionality. We have on the ends here, both ends, kind of set into the design, a 10 millimeter, I believe it's stainless steel bead here. Now on this end, it's just kind of loose, it's over there. On the other end, kind of hidden away in the channel here, if I flip it up, we have the actual tie end. So I have three snake knots on there, and then you can flip that down and push that right back in there, and it locks right in. So I've kind of adjusted the tension that I prefer, which is about a bead and a half length between, roughly an inch. All right, if I want a little bit more, I can pull that end out and have the knot end out, and that's gonna give me another like half an inch or so, right? Now, if I want a little bit less than that, I can take the other end, give it a little 180 twist, and drop it back in there. And I've noticed it pretty much stays in there. Personally, I like to hide this end here. Just kind of, I think it gives a nice clean look to both ends, a very symmetrical look. So I've adjusted it so that this is the tension that I want for my general play. But I like the idea that if I really, again, I want a little more, slack there, I can pull that out and have maybe a little bit more control for things like rolls and things like that. Depends how I want to play my Chetki. That is a distinctive feature that I think Mellow Blocks has really kind of just really done something really cool out the gate. I think there's a lot of potential for that. I think there's potential for different size paddles at the end and different shapes where they can take this sort of design here and really go with it. So I'm very excited to see what they might do in the future. There are some metal offerings as well that I've seen a couple pictures of as well. I think there was and now these are, I believe, 3D printed as well, not machined. I saw a brass version that somebody in the community had. You can buy some of their accents as well, which are metal. I would say in general, I would like this to be a little bit longer. So I would have probably purchased some of the accents and maybe like a brass or copper, something like that accent. So I have a couple extra bead length on there. But overall, I think the length out of the box is pretty good for most people. I've been able to play with it just fine. All right, let's go ahead and sling these a little bit up closer, and I'll talk about their play, and then we'll finish it up. Like I said, this is the polished version here. I will say it's a little more tackier, obviously, than maybe the powdered or kind of matte version. With that said, I will say that my fingers are probably a little more tackier than they would normally be because I've been out here for like 10 minutes or so. And, it's going to maybe stick a little bit more than if I was playing inside in the air conditioning. So just keep that in mind as far as playability. Not saying I'm necessarily the best Chetki player anyways, but yeah. So it kind of depends on where you play, where you're going to find, your play preference normally, outside, inside. So this is the tension I've had it. Like I said, I wanted to kind of keep my preferred tension with them both kind of symmetrically locked in here. So as I said, you can pull this end out and you can have a little more slack here between. It's a little bit longer for those kind of things, for rolls and things like that. But personally, I think the tension, as far as how I put it, or the slack rather, is just fine with them both in like that. Did fail to mention that you could wear this as a bracelet as well. So you'd have to take out this end here, and there'd be that slack there, and it's long enough for my wrist. It might not be long enough for others, and you would just simply put that end in through here. If I can get it through with one hand here. All right, that took a little bit of effort, but if you wanted to wear it as a bracelet, it's not too bad. I probably won't. I don't really wear a lot of jewelry in the first place, but that is an option. So if you wanted to kind of just put that on and then snap it back off here, shouldn't take too much effort here. That wasn't too bad. It does take a little dexterity to kind of get that. So I probably wouldn't mess with that much, but again, that's an option. really like the weight at the ends here. I feel like there's a lot of control on these paddles here as far as the length of them, and it's got a good chunkiness. I mean, generally this Chetki offering has a bit of a chunkier feel. I really like that a lot. These ends do add a little bit of weight, which is really nice. I would like to see maybe some other bead offerings. It'd be cool to see maybe a copper offering or brass offering. That might add a little bit of extra weight here. To be honest, I probably play Chetki a little bit more like Big Larry, as kind of, I'm more familiar with that, obviously, as far as how I actually kind of sling these around. There are some tutorials out there. Round Square has some solid tutorials that you can definitely check out. By the way, in addition to just kind of slinging them, this would be a really good candidate for something like bead counting as well, or even like raindrops. You know, if you kind of just want something that's a little bit more tactile and not so much like skill toy focused, or you want something that's both, you might really enjoy this option. Now, if I were to do raindrops, I'd probably give a little bit more slack there as an option here, and has a nice little clack there. Let me go ahead and get it by the mic. Yeah, nice tactile feel to that. That's probably how I would do that, or if I was to do bead counting. Yeah, I think that would be really nice, and it has a really nice feel with that polish there. So if you wanted to do breath work with these, or prayer work, or what have you with these, you could definitely do that as an option. Highly recommend these ones. They play exactly like I'd want them to play. A really cool option. That is going to do it for my review of the Balto Chetki from Mellow Blocks. If you like this kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe, and all the stuff you're supposed to do. I'll see you on the next one. Later.